to today's interaction with Gurudev. Our guest today is Pullela Gopichand ji. He's a former Indian badminton player. Presently, he's the chief national coach for the Indian badminton team. He won the All England Open Badminton Championship in 2001, becoming the second Indian to achieve this feat. He runs the Gopichand Badminton Academy, which has produced greats like Sania Nehwal and PV Sindhu, among many others. He received the Arjuna Award and the Dronacharya Award in 2009 from the Indian government, and the Padma Bhushan, India's third highest civilian award in 2014. Welcome, sir, to this interaction with Gurudev. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. Pranam Guruji.
Gopi, how are you?
Great Guruji. Thanks for all your blessings. For me, Guruji, I thought I will not be nervous because I remember having come to the ashram almost 25 years ago when we all used to be at the kutir and spend time with you. But today, I promise myself that I will ask you these questions. Because for me, you've been there guiding me all through my life. One thing which I really wanted to know was, because I've seen you as a God, as a person whom I shared my innermost feelings, how should we look at a guru? What are the feelings we should have for a guru? Is it reverence, love, respect, gratitude? What is it that we should feel?
You know, feelings you don't decide, they come on their own. So I would say just be natural. Whatever feeling is coming, that is what it authentic. Now, if we try to impose a feeling, that won't be authentic. The guru is there to make you natural, make you feel natural, get you connected to your true self. So he doesn't expect any particular specific behavior from anybody.
Guruji, when I totally with you. When I was there at the ashram, say years ago, then I could be as free as possible with you. But today, when I see the ashram around and the number of people around, I just sometimes feel that am I spoiling the culture of the ashram by behaving in a certain way? Is that a doubt which should be there? Because when I see people around behave in a certain way and I break the culture and behave in another way, how do I feel about it?
No. Don't worry. There is not just one type of behavior with people. There are people who behave in all different ways. So, certain disciplines are followed. That's all. That is to maintain some orderliness in the, as far as management and all those things are concerned. Other than that, there is nothing that, for example, we don't let in the ashram anyone smoke or anyone come with a drink. So ashram has its certain rules. Other than that, one has to be natural.
Thank you. Guruji,
And with art of living, I often say this is not just a Goshala or a poultry farm. This is a zoo. Really, there are people of all different status, nature, mindsets. It's a melting pot. So you have seen that. You have seen people from all age groups, from all different strata of society. That makes it even more interesting, isn't it?
yes, Guruji. Guruji, in my life, some of the biggest decisions I've taken have been asked, consulted by you. And you always said this: choice is yours, blessings are mine. I always wanted to ask you, why do you say that?
Yeah, I want people to take, you know, their decisions. I want them to choose. Everyone should choose. Everybody has a brain. They should use their brain, and they have a heart, and they should do their choices. Certain things they should do through the head. Certain choices through the heart. And I'm always there for them for the blessings, and that is true.
Wonderful. Guruji, I have this as a sporting person, as a badminton player. I tell the students that some of the best performances come when you practice for the goal of practice itself or improving yourself rather than actually trying to win a tournament. And I say, how do players do practice to improve? Because players ask me this question that, sir, how can we play or practice without a definitive goal? So effort, resultless effort, how was that possible? How can you share some light?
When they practice, there is a different mindset. But when they go to play a match, there is completely different mindset. So when they are rehearsing, they are doing the rehearsal, they are playing, they are practicing, there is certain ease. They should carry that same ease and same state of mind when they go to play the game also. That makes a very big difference. One is it will make them play with spontaneity. Often when we calculate too much, there is all the chances of us going wrong. But when we are in the moment, when we are spontaneous, we will always hit the right ball at the right time.
The initial years for me was a challenge because Sudarshan Kriya I was doing, and I would see people crying, people laughing, people dancing, happy moments. And I was thinking in my head that why is not something special happening to me? And that made me imagine things that made me actually stressful. But later, I kind of started to feel at ease and enjoyed the process of the Kriya itself. So today, when we talk about meditation, to release stress, the fact that we go into meditation thinking that this will release stress, by itself, the thought would be stressful. So, what should be our thoughts going into meditation? To sit into meditation needs a certain effort, but how should that be mindset be at that point of
No,
time?
that is the reason I am guiding. If people could do it easily, I would not be making this effort to make everyone, lead people into meditation. That is where you need a teacher, you need master. You need people who have experience to give you that experience. Meditation is that which gets transferred from experience to experience. So like the fragrance of a flower alone can be experienced, right? When you see a flower, the fragrance, it spreads around. And it is its original natural fragrance. In the same way, when we meditate and when we have depth in meditation, we'll be able to give that to others too. And that's why the guided meditations play a very big role for beginners. Yeah.
Guruji, sometimes when I am very stressed, I tend to play. When I sit for meditation, if I'm very stressed and sit for meditation, I find it very difficult to control the emotion. But when I play, do some physical activity, or do some deep breathing, then the meditation becomes very effortless. How important is the role of physical exercise or deep breathing?
Both are necessary. It's a very good question. Physical exercise is essential. You have to do some, because that brings good circulation in the body. So physical exercise is good. Yoga asanas are good. And then breathing, very important. Whenever mind is in an agitated state, you cannot simply go into meditation. That is why the pranayama and kriya and bastrika, this breathing exercise is a boon then. When we do this, we are able to really go deep in meditation.
How much of knowledge and understanding and how much of it is kriya and exercise and breathing exercises for calming the mind?
Everything has a place. Some knowledge, sometimes knowledge itself calms you down. See life in a different perspective. See your whole life as a dream. Till now, whatever happened is all like a dream, right? And what might happen in the future for another 20, 30 years, project your mind, see, you will see even that is a dream. When you see the whole life as a dream, so nothing here appears to be real. And then we get in touch with the reality, that what we are, the true self, that what we are. Now, knowledge also, meditation, and then sometime listening to bhajans, singing bhajans, chants, all this help you to be yourself. It's because we have moved away from our natural self, The society has compelled you to move in very different directions. So, these things will help you to get back to yourself, your true self, your natural self. And that is the very purpose of all that. And for someone though don't need to do any of this, suddenly they can be in good space. That is what is called blessings. You don't do anything and you got that state peace of mind just by blessing.
Guruji, one of the things which in the basic course changed my entire course of life was one statement in the basic course which was about taking responsibility. It says the more responsibilities you take, the more powerful you become, or the more wholesome you become, and people belongingness becomes more. That's some statement in my life. Once I started finishing my badminton playing career, take up coaching and take the responsibility of so many students, I think that one statement changed a lot of things. But my question is, Guruji, sometimes one is you take a lot of responsibility and you have the feeling that maybe you haven't done enough. And sometimes you have a feeling that there's so much more to do and there's only so much you can do because already you're working and you have other commitments. So what be our mindset at that point of time?
Yeah. It's quite but natural. When you love something, the more you do, you feel you have to do more. There is much more you can do, and or you'll feel that you have not done enough. This is very natural when you love anything. If you love a profession, you love your children, and the more you do to them, you still feel you have not done enough, you want to do more. Right? And same way, if you are an artist, you always feel that you can do better. And that is the nature of deep love for any profession or any hobbies. It is fine. It's fine. You are doing well, Gopi.
Thank you. Guruji, sometimes when you have, and this is a question which sometimes when you have a negative emotion strong, whether it's anger or jealousy, you kind of put your higher mind to it and then higher knowledge, and then you stop it. And the intensity, the potency of that thought comes down over a period of time. And then you start feeling well. How do you control them? And how do you stop them from coming in the first place itself? How does that happen?
See, any negative emotion, the more we are scared, more we are trying to stop them, more we try to control them, it is counterproductive. What we need to do is just let them be. We should take it part of life. When there is flower, there is thorn also. But if we focus on thorn, try to get rid of thorn, they're not going to work. So once you accept it, let them all be there. You know, in life, these type of storms do come. They come and they go, but not to give much importance to it. Rather, see yourself much bigger than any circumstances, situation that you find yourself is in. Yeah? So that is essential to feel your own power, which is much, much bigger than the power of emotions.
Guruji, I have seen you, and this I wanted to ask you for the longest period of time. I remember I was in 1999 with you in Badanta Ghosh Ashram, and uh, I had
In
a flight
Germany, yes.
in Germany, and I had a flight to catch, and we were talking, and I told you that I had a flight to catch. You said you wait, and I somehow thought that unless Guruji tells me, I won't move. And then time passed by. It was the time when the mandap was being built, and we were actually, you were deciding the main door of the frames, and you were busy with a lot of work, a lot of people, a lot of things happening. And I was calmly sitting down thinking that if Guruji doesn't tell me, I won't move. And then suddenly out of the blue, you said, Gopi, you better leave now, otherwise you'll miss the flight. It so happened that I went to the airport, and the moment I went in, it was almost like literally I stepped in, and behind me, the door was closed. So, for the longest period of time, I wanted to find out whether it's coincidence or intuition, or did you do something else? Because for me, that baffled me, because you had actually said those words, and I was waiting for you. I actually thought if Guruji doesn't say anything, I won't move from here. Let me see if he remembers it or not. And it was an experience for me
Life has many mysteries and many miracles. They all need to be just experienced, not explained. Many things should not be explained. If you explain, it loses the charm. So with life, we don't need to comment on everything that happens in life, because life in itself is sacred and it's beautiful. Huh?
I remember of the many decisions. I remember I had this squirrel with me, which I had as a pet for 3 months. And to part with it because I was playing a tournament was the biggest kind of pain I had at that point of time. And I came up to you and I said, Guruji, what should I do with it? And then you said it's an animal and you have to let go of it. And I was expecting you would give me some story about how it's linked to your past life and this and that. And then you said, Gopi, it's an animal, you have to let go of it. And for me, at that point of time, I think those decisions were very, very important. And thank you, Guruji, for actually guiding me and letting me experience such beautiful things in my life. I think I've been truly blessed to have this support. Guruji, on a lighter note, this is a mango season, and I always indulge in a mango more than what I should. So I just wanted to ask you, what's your favorite mango?
Anything that is on my table on that day, it will be my favorite. Mangoes are good. This season, every season has its, has its glory with the fruits. Papaya has papaya, mangoes, and pomegranate, chicus. We are so blessed. The nature has provided with so many varieties, right? And each one of them is so beautiful, so precious. Each one of those are precious.
Guruji, when I was there traveling with you, when I've seen you always, and I've seen you for close to 25 years, I've seen you be meticulous in work. I and Ravi the Ayurvedic doctor, both of us remember, and we were astonished to see you counting bottles and bags one after the other meticulously, and we were wondering why you would do this. Or when we were deciding names, you would be so keen on detail going in. And I've seen you go through thousands and thousands of teachers and students, not lakhs and lakhs of them. But you still maintain the smile always. And you've never taken a break. I've never seen you take a break. I've always seen you work at 21, 22 hours. And I would see in flights or at the ashram, if there was a time when you're even meditating or sitting together, maybe you're closing your eyes for a few minutes and then you're back again. What is it that keeps you going like this?
I leave that to be as a wonder. Let like I would leave it to people to wonder about it. But now it's time for meditation. We'll just take a little break and then start meditation.
Great.
We'll just take 1 minute. Wonderful, Gopi. All
Thank
the
you, Guruji.
best. Lovely.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Guruji.
Let us place our palms on our lap. Keep our spine erect. रीढ़ की हड्डी सीधा रखते हैं. Keep your palms on your lap and let us close our eyes. Let us become aware of the weight of our body. Whatever that is, 60 kilos or 80 kilos, 90 kilos. And place the weight of your body on the chair you are sitting. Now let us honor our own body. हमारा शरीर ईश्वर से मिला हुआ एक अद्भुत उपहार है. अपने ही शरीर को मन ही मन सम्मान करें. Honor your own body in your own mind. You are grateful for your legs, for they carry you wherever you want to go. You are grateful for your arms. They do whatever you instruct. You are grateful for your heart, your liver, your pancreas, all the internal organs. They keep functioning even while you are sleeping. You are grateful for your eyes. They open you to a dimension of colors and shapes and forms. Let's take our attention to our nostrils. Take a deep breath in and let go. We are grateful for the sense of smell, fragrance. That is another dimension. Let's take our attention to our tongue. The tongue helps you to say what you want to and also taste the food. You're grateful for the functions of your tongue. Our entire body is encapsulated in the skin. And we are grateful for the skin, for the experience of touch. त्वचा से हम स्पर्श का अनुभव कर रहे हैं, ऐसे ही स्वाद जीभ से और नासिका से घ्राण, इन सभी इंद्रियों को हम धन्य भागी देते हैं मन ही मन. And we are grateful for our ears. Through these ears, we listen, we hear, we communicate. We take it for granted. All that the ear contributes to our own life. कान के वजह से, इस श्रवणेंद्र की वजह से हम संगीत सुन पाते हैं, दूसरों की बातें समझ पाते हैं. एक नया आयाम ही हमारे सामने होता है. एक मुख्य आयाम कान हमारे सामने खोल देता है. हम धन्य भागी हैं अपने ही श्रोत्र के लिए. We are grateful for the whole body. Become aware of the whole body. Now let's take our attention to our breath. गहरी सांस लीजिए और सांस छोड़ें. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out through the mouth. Breathe in through the nostril. Hold the breath and breathe out through the mouth and let go of all tiredness and tension. फिर एक गहरी सांस लीजिए. नासिका से सांस लेते हैं. रोकिए सांस को. अब देखिए मन खाली हो रहा है और मुंह से सांस छोड़ दें. थकान के साथ सांस को बाहर छोड़ दें. Our body is like the wick of a candle and our mind is like the glow all around it. In fact, our body is inside the mind. Mind is much bigger than the body. शरीर मन के भीतर है, शरीर बाती है तो मन ज्योति है। फिर एक गहरी सांस लीजिए और रोके, जितनी देर रोक सके रोके, और शरीर को ढीला छोड़ दें। सांस अपने आप रोकना बंद करें, सांस अपने आप निकलने लगे। ब्रीद इन, hold the breath as long as you can, and then relax and let the breath deplete itself. Incoming breath energizes the body, while outgoing breath brings relaxation. Let us become aware of this phenomenon. Breathe in and hold and relax. As you relax, slowly the breath comes out. सांस लेके रोके और रोकना छोड़े तो अपने आप सांस बाहर आने लगेगी। Now let's relax fully. Let us become aware of the walls of the room we are sitting in. The energy getting radiated from you is touching the walls of the room you are in. You are influencing the walls and the ceiling as well. Become aware of the ceiling and the space above your head up to the ceiling. मन से हम छत को और दीवारों को स्पर्श करते हैं। मन को विकसित होने देते हैं। Our mind expands. Mind is thinner than air and more fluid than the liquid, than water. Let go of all your efforts. सभी प्रयत्न छोड़ दें। Whatever thoughts are coming in the mind, just let them come. अच्छे बुरे सभी विचारों को गले लगाते जाएं। इस अग्नि में आहुति देते जाएं। In the fire of your consciousness, all the thoughts, they come and they go. Not to resist any thought, however bad they are, let them come. They come and they They go the way they come. किसी भी विचार को न रोकना है न टोकना है, आने देते हैं और हम विश्राम में रहते हैं। Let go of all that you let go of all the efforts, any tension anywhere, just let it be. Let it be. कहीं कोई असुविधा लग रही हो तो रहने दें उसको। और सब प्रयत्न छोड़ दें। Let the mind dissipate in all directions. मन को चारों ओर फैलने दे। इस वक्त ना कुछ जानना है ना ही कुछ करना है हम। This moment we are not doing anything, nor are we interested in knowing anything. Just let go. Like in sleep, when you relax, rest, you don't focus on anything, you let go. Simply let go. Let's take another deep breath in and breathe out with a smile. मुस्कुराते मुस्कुराते गहरी सांस लीजिए और मुस्कुराते मुस्कुराते सांस छोड़ें। Repose with a smile. मुस्कान के साथ विश्राम करें। Let us take our attention to our right palm. दाहिने हथेली पर अपना ध्यान ले जाएं। Feel there is a ball of energy in your right palm. दाहिने हथेली पर ऊर्जा का एक गोल है, गोला है, ऐसे समझें। Little more attention on the right palm. Our attention enlivens. When you attend to your right palm, energy starts building up there. दाहिनी हथेली पर जब से ध्यान देते हैं वहाँ शक्ति का संचार बढ़ने लगता है। ऐसे ही तो आशीर्वाद देते हैं हम बच्चों को, सबको। Little more attention on the right palm. And let's move on to the left palm. Just place your attention on the left palm without much effort. कोई प्रयत्न नहीं करना है, एकाग्र नहीं करना है। विश्राम करें तो हल्का सा ध्यान अपने बाएं हथेली पर रखें। Again, let us take our attention to the right palm. फिर से दाहिनी हथेली पर अपना ध्यान लेकर चेहरे में मुस्कान बना रहे। फिर से बाएं हाथ में again come to the left palm. Let's take another deep breath in and breathe out. Now equally on both the palms. Now let us keep our attention on both the palms. दोनों हथेली पर ध्यान रखते हैं। अब सब प्रयत्न छोड़ दे और विश्राम करें। Let go of everything now and simply relax. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Keep a big smile on your face. And know that every cell in your face is smiling. Every cell is relaxing and blossoming. हमारे चेहरे में मुस्कान रहे और वह मुस्कान चेहरे के एक एक अंग से निकले। Let the smile percolate to the back of the head. चेहरे में जो मुस्कान है वो सिर के पीछे भी जाने दें उसको। ऐसा महसूस करें सिर का पीछे का हिस्सा भी मुस्कुरा रहा हो। As though the back of your head is also smiling. Let every cell in your brain start relaxing now. And slowly bring the smile to your throat and chest region. Let's take another deep breath in as we breathe out. Feel our shoulders are smiling, our arms are smiling. The whole body is smiling, blossoming, relaxing. धीरे धीरे पूरे शरीर में मुस्कान उतर रहा है, इसको पहचानते हैं। जैसे एक शिशु पूरे शरीर से खिलखिलाट के हंसता है, मुस्कुराता है, ऐसे ही हमारे शरीर के कण कण को मुस्कान की जरूरत है। विटामिन एम है, होने दे इसको। और धीरे धीरे आप आंखें खोल सकते हो। You may take another deep breath and slowly you may open your eyes as you breathe out. Our body is starving for smile. Let us give it what it needs. And you may gently open your eyes.
Thank you for that deep and restful meditation, Gurudev. For everyone watching, we now have a unique interaction with Gurudev and United Nations Secretary General Special Advisor Mr. Fabricio Hochschild. Moderating this interaction is Ms. Annika Dopping. Annika is a social entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in media production, specialized in sustainable development, leadership, health, education, and human issues. Over to you, Annika.
Very much. Dear friends all over the world, it's amazing to see how this kind of communication, empowering, intimate, across national borders, is growing so rapidly. Like a giant united nervous system of mankind, enabling collective raised awareness and commitment. And as we're facing a common enemy right now, although tiny in size, so immensely powerful, actually this concerns our entire common existence, and it calls for global action. In media, the focus is often on the physical health, but both the pandemic and the lockdowns also severely provoke mental conditions like stress and fear and anxiety and depression and grief. And that can often, in turn, manifest in destructive ways in the outer world. So we are longing strongly for comprehensive, holistic solutions. And today we will focus on the critical condition of our mental health and look at ways to attend to it, both on an individual, community, and global level, one at a time. Shri, you have been working with these problems for many years. You've learned what works and not. Please begin by telling us how this crisis expresses itself on an individual level, the way you see it.
Yes, Nice being with Mr. Fabrio, Child, and nice to see you and have a dialogue with you. And Anika, it's always nice to talk to you. You know, you smile and you really bring up the best in people whom you interview. This has been happening for many years, since I know you from last 25 years. Yes. So your question, which is very valid now, how it is impacting the society now. When people were busy, they were engaging in some activity, their life was normal. Even then, there was mental health issues, but they were not paying much attention to it. Now, this lockdown has increased that in many fold, because this is causing them to come to a verge of obsessive compulsive disorder, because there is fear of contacting the disease. So then they keep washing their hands so many times, and then this is leading them sort of many complicated mental issues. Not just this, again, when a person has lot of anxiety and fear, his communication with people breaks down. When the communication breaks down, conflict arises right away. Conflict is just waiting for the communication to break down. This is one of the reasons we find the rate of divorces has increased many-fold in many countries around the world. Now, what is the option? What do people do? Okay, they engage themselves in some art, watching television, playing games, all this. Here, I find meditation in one of the very special options that people can help themselves. When they meditate few minutes, calm their mind, so they do not act from a state of stress or frustration. Meditation, first and foremost, reduces the frustration. If you are frustrated, you can't, it doesn't allow frustration to be there when there is meditation. Either you are in a meditative state or you are frustrated. So we need to shift from the frustration to a calm and serene place within oneself. Now, there is a secret to this here. See, our breath is the link which most people have forgotten about or even don't know. For every definite rhythm of the breath, there is definite emotions, definite feelings. So by attending to breath, the agitation in mind can be reduced. When agitation goes down to certain level, then meditation can happen very nicely. So when there is meditation, it gives inner calmness using breathing techniques to handle extreme emotions like anger, frustration, depression, aggression. I have found in these 40 years of my public work, this has helped tremendously millions of people. As you know, in Denmark, with the gang, the gangsters, the inner city gangs, groups, when they took to breathing techniques, there was a big difference in them. Same with the prisons. In the prisons also, people have found a big relief when they did the breathing techniques. Then through breathing technique, it's easy to go to meditation. So to summarize, I would say it is most needed now to take care of mental health. Neither at home nor in school are we taught anything about our mind, nor how to handle our negative emotions. Negative emotions are not natural, they do come, but we need to learn how to handle them. Here, the breathing techniques comes in handy.
Thank you. Well, I can't help boasting over our Swedish pioneer in this area, namely Dag Hammarskjöld, who was Secretary General in the UN before he sadly was assassinated. And he understood, although we come from the northern part of Europe, the cold, dark Sweden, that meditation was very important. And he installed a meditation room in the UN that is still there because he understood the importance of turning inwards.
Correct.
And now we are delighted to turn our attention to Mr. Fabrizio Horshed. And in Sweden, we are very informal and we call people by their first name. Would you be offended if I call you Fabrizio?
No, please do, please, Annika.
Thank you. What would you say? You are working now in the UN. Please tell us about your responsibility there and about your passion, what you're focusing on.
No, thank you so much, and it's a great honor to be at this event with Shri and also with you, Annika. I've been long in the United Nations. I've worked in many conflict areas, and I've also had my own experience with mental health challenges. I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and have had many different forms of treatment. And of course, I'm a daily practicant of meditation and would agree on its beneficial effects in these circumstances. And I'm a frequent user of the meditation room that Dag Hammarskjöld installed, and which is not well known even by staff, and it's hidden in the basement of the building, but it's a very special place. And of course, Dag Hammarskjöld had a very spiritual side, which I think was one of his great motivations in his work here. I mean, the crisis we're experiencing at a personal level and at a level of many communities, I think is exacerbated at the global level. And as Shri said, many of the ingredients of this crisis were there before, but have been made worse through this crisis. And if at the individual level, there's an assault on our mental health leading to some reactions of fear with an exaggerated sense of threat and then an exaggerated counter-reaction, I'm afraid we're seeing the same at a global level between states. And we see at a time when the world should be coming together to fight and work together in an ever more interdependent, ever more interconnected world on global challenges like climate change, like this pandemic, like protracted conflict in many parts of the world. What we're seeing are greater divisions, greater fragmentation, more isolationism. My job now, in the 75th anniversary of the UN, is to try and start a global debate on whether this is really the approach we want, or whether we shouldn't be trying to boost international cooperation, working together across borders, across boundaries, acknowledging the frailty, not only of ourselves, but of our planet, and working better together to address it. So on behalf of the UN Secretary General, we're trying to get a global conversation growing, a global listening tour, especially among young people, on what is the world they would like to see 25 years from now? Where do they believe we're headed if current megatrends like climate change or this pandemic are not better attended to across borders? And what are their expectations of international cooperation? So we've launched many ways people can join, including our so-called 1-minute survey, which is at our website, which we hope many of the people participating will fill in and ask their friends and families to fill in. And we hope through this effort to bring the world to its senses, because there's a global loss of path, as well as there is at such a personal level and at a community level. And we need the voices of as many people across the world as possible to help us find togetherness again to better confront global challenges.
Well, because it was already in 1941, in burning war, that Churchill and Roosevelt decided to create the vision that resulted in the United Nations. So, of course, it is absolutely crucial that we now create that common vision. And we can do this in a unique way that they couldn't involve people the way you do. And this 1-minute survey that you have launched fairly recently, where you are at, it's both multiple choice and you can fill in things. Well, how many have been filling it in so far? Do you know that?
Yes, we've so far, as of this morning, we have 120,000 responses from 191 countries. So we've got responses from all countries who are member states of the United Nations, except for maybe 2. And it's very striking how, while leaders are so divided, when you talk to people or listen to people, as we've been doing across borders, old and young, east and west, north and south, the set of their concerns are very similar. The set of their hopes for the future are very similar. The set of their expectations of international cooperation are very similar. So there are these common aspirations, common hopes, common fears that are different from the more divisive directions many countries are moving at the moment. As you mentioned, Annika, the terrible suffering of the Second World War brought the globe together. And of course, there were still political divisions then, but there was this common hope, this common aspiration for peace and security. And I think 75 years on, we've lost touch with that. We've lost touch with those common aspirations and common hopes. And our initiative is to try and bring those back to the fore. Because, of course, we can't get rid of all divisions. They're natural to humankind. But we need to recall better what we share in common, which at a very basic physical level, as Shrishi mentioned, is breathing. But it's also hopes for a future with our environment intact, which we found the vast majority want everywhere. It's hopes that our human rights, fundamental rights as enshrined in the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights will be upheld and our dignity upheld. That is also a major demand. It's the demand to live in peace and overcome these conflicts that are lasting longer and longer. That's a third demand that came forward very strongly from our survey. And people also want greater solidarity between peoples, between countries. And so I think we have to make those voices more known, and that's what I'm involved in now. And the hope is that we will take advantage of this crisis, as leaders did 75 years ago, to make the world a saner place, that we will take this enforced pause, this meditative moment, and come out of it more united and stronger, rather than more divided and weaker.
And how will you present the outcome of this survey and show it to the people?
Well, there will be a meeting here in New York, digitally and partially in person, on the 21st of September of this year, where all heads of state will gather. And the Secretary General will present the findings of what we have heard from We the Peoples. Those are the first 3 words of the United Nations Charter, We the Peoples. What we've heard from the We the Peoples, what are the unifying aspirations and hopes, the unifying fears. And we hope through this exercise of gathering voices, the biggest exercise ever undertaken, to tap into the hopes and fears of people and their expectations of international cooperation, to try and bring new life and new vigor to the international endeavor. Because without that, we will not overcome these common challenges that humanity faces, the most immediate one being the pandemic. Lives will be lost or lives will be saved based on how well governments cooperate across borders. But also, climate change, as I say, is probably a much deadlier pandemic, slower onset, not so obvious, but in the longer term consequences, we're undermining the very existence of the planet that allows us to survive. And there are many other challenges that can only be dealt with through better cooperation across borders. So we really need to revive that endeavor, but we need voices. It needs to come now from the bottom up. It needs to come from people. It needs to come from the participants in this webinar. We need those voices to try to bring those to heads of state to try and reinvigorate this endeavor.
And I strongly recommend everybody to do the survey because, as Fabrizio says, it's only a 1-minute survey, but it's a unique way, you call it a global reality check to see where we're at. But what can the UN do then in order to promote mental health? What tools? You have the goals, the SDGs, very clearly phrased and outlined. What can you do more concretely?
Well, our Secretary General has been a great advocate for mental health. From his own personal experience, his first wife, who died very sadly after long sickness, was a mental health professional. His sister is a mental health professional. And so this is an issue very close to his heart, and he has been an advocate. He published a policy brief on 13 May, highlighting how this disease is, of course, an onslaught on our physical health, but for a relatively small number of people. But the impact it has on the mental health is very widespread. Everybody is affected by the conditions. Everybody is affected by the uncertainty. Everybody is affected by the fear associated with it. Everybody is affected in the dramatic changes we've all experienced in our lives. So the mental health impact of the disease is less visible, but far more widespread. And the Secretary General has been speaking up about what should be done and has been calling for much more energetic measures and more funding by member states and the introduction of hotlines and other services to help. I think, as Sri said, we were already in a mental health crisis globally before this disease came. In the country we're living in here, in the United States, suicide rates were rising prior to COVID. Now, among young people globally, the #1 leading cause of death among young people everywhere is suicide. It's a terrible thought. So we had a pandemic of mental health concerns, a hidden pandemic, because it was not in the news before, but now, of course, it's been exacerbated. And I think the first step is to be aware of it. And the next step is to learn, each of us, what we can do for ourselves through exercises like meditation. And there, I think, to benefit from the wisdom and experience of Sri is tremendously valuable.
Very powerful programs around the world that's helped so many people to really get that inner calm that will manifest in a peaceful, solidary, compassionate person. We tend to think sometimes that peace is created out externally, but of course it's just a reflection of how we're doing. And as you say, all the problems have been magnified in the crisis. But before we leave the personal level, both you then and the Secretary General daring as powerful men and leaders to be open with mental distress. That is rare and probably one of the most important keys to dare to address this, to acknowledge, I also have these problems. What can I do to help? How come you are so brave to talk about that?
Well, I early in my career, I was exposed to situations that led to trauma, and the trauma with me stayed with me for a very long time. But frankly, like many of my colleagues who've experienced similar things for many different reasons, I didn't dare speak up about it, not least because I was afraid of the impact it could have on my career. And now, I've reached a certain age, I've reached a certain maturity. I've advanced. I've been tremendously fortunate in my career. I'm quite senior. And this Secretary General and his willingness to advocate this gave me the courage to speak up myself. And I think I think one of the main problems with mental health, unlike physical health, is that stigma. And it's societal stigma, it's stigma in communities, but it's also a stigma we carry within ourselves. As I've said before, I think in my case, the worst stigma came from my own perceptions of myself as a weakling, as somehow deficient, as lacking in the courage by acknowledging the anxiety, the fear, the panic attacks I had. So I think often the first step we have to overcome is the stigma we impose on ourselves. And I think we have to be ready. And this COVID crisis is terrible. It puts us in isolation. But at the same time, it gives us a unique opportunity to acknowledge our own frailty as human beings, including our mental frailty, and to reach out to others and to share that frailty. And to, through that, to find common ground, which is reassuring, because we can be pretty sure that whatever difficulties we're experiencing now, others are experiencing the same. And it's a unique opportunity to create those much deeper bonds that in the rush of our daily lives and the chaos of it usually are much more superficial and can't be gained. So I think this is a time where we've been reminded of our frailty as human beings, and acknowledging it is probably the first step to better handling it.
I associate to a Finnish author, Tommy Hellsten, who says that it's our emotional scars that is our contact surface to other people. Those are really for intimacy. And thank you for now, Fabrizio. Sri, what else can you say to encourage those who still fear that it would be a terrible proof of weakness to cry and to reveal problems and panic attacks and fears and all? What have you seen in terms of concrete transformations when it comes to opening up and heal those shadows within?
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with Mr. Fabrizio that he has very clearly put, the whole picture that there is stigma in people. They don't want to show it outside that there is something wrong. There is two things that happen here, the two extremities that our youth goes. One side, they become depressed and suicidal. On the other hand, they become very aggressive and unreasonable. They are not open to any reason. So these two extremes will have to be managed by a counselor, people who can counsel them, by the community. Community need to come together to help such people instead of keeping them away or putting stigma on it, having stigma about it. So it's not just individual health, it's also community health that we need to know how the community takes them, treats with them, behaves with them. So a behavioral understanding also need to develop here, whether it's at home or in the community, in the family. These things need really attention. Once society starts putting attention to it, it's not surmountable, it's not so big, it's doable. We can create a very healthy, a violence-free, stress-free society. I feel stress is the main culprit. When stress is there, then violence erupts, loneliness comes up, and all this negativity comes up. So if we can teach people to handle their own stress, this is something that is doable. See, I'm thinking about 40 years ago when I used to teach yoga and some breathing and all that. Very few takers were there. Today, more than 2 billion people on the planet Earth are practicing yoga. So yoga, gymnasium, tai chi, and sports activity, cultural activity, and service activity. People who are joining any sort of service activity can also overcome many of these mental illness. But if they simply sit at home and think about what about me, it only creates them, make them more anxious and gets into more more trouble. Another thing is spreading positivity, positive thoughts, positive news. If you wake up with negative news and go to bed with negative news, the whole day you keep talking negative, it affects your brain badly. It affects your, hippocampus. It creates lesions in the hippocampus. The central nervous system gets affected. And so naturally their behavior, everything goes topsy-turvy. So I feel some of these things would be very, very essential to focus on. Some good things that the COVID-19 did is, it has allowed the nature to rejuvenate itself. I tell you, in many parts here in India, in Bangalore, it never had such good weather in the last 50 years. So because of the carbon emissions are less, weathers have become better, sparrows have started coming, air has become much better, air quality in Delhi has become better, the rivers have become much purer now, pure water. So I have an idea, maybe we don't know how practical it is, I don't know how practical it is, but my idea is to, if United Nations, with the consent of all the countries, announce 1 week of lockdown, well-planned lockdown, once every year, I think that can bring a revolution in the world. One thing, the family values will become better, families can bond together, then nature will get a chance, environment will get a chance to rejuvenate herself, the birds rejoice. Mumbai had dolphins and whales and dolphins, which never happened. Peacocks are roaming around in the streets. There is such a big difference you can feel in the quality of air, water, and all this. So it could be something that could be floated around amongst all the nations, all the countries, that if they all come to an agreement for a well-planned, see, it has to be well-planned. People should have 1 week of food and everything, groceries. In India, we had some difficulty with the daily wage workers. They live hand to mouth, and we had hundreds and thousands of them. They had no food, and then, of course, all the NGOs, including ours, we catered to them. Government also did lot to help them out. But the fear in them, plus this, everything led into a sort of migration, So if it is well planned, and if all these things are taken care of, today we need to take care of daily wage workers in almost all third world countries. I think all over the world it's the same story. And give that assurance for people that all will be well. And we can, if we could come out of the Second World War, this is nothing short of the Third World War. And we can come out of this with much strength and with great zeal and resilience than ever before.
Thank you, Shrishi. Before we let Fabrizio respond to that, that idea of giving nature and people a week vacation and rejuvenation every year, on the community level, how would you say that the crisis with stressful people manifests in concrete terms? What happens? How do we see the problems with young people in violence and domestic violence and all? What do you see, Shri, how the community level is showing the problems with the mental illness?
With the mental illness, we need to create awareness, like we create awareness about physical health. We are telling them now, okay, wash your hands, use mask, and keep social distancing. Like we are educating people, the same way we need to educate them. And recommend them yoga, exercises, proper food, meditation. Meditation can help people a lot, especially PTSD. We have been doing PTSD for the troops in America as a welcome home troops. We have nearly 5,000 troops have been benefited by these, exercises, and their life is normal. They're back on track. So we can make these things popular, and thanks to United Nations and also our Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi pushed this yoga day, International Yoga Day, which is going to come very soon, 21st of June, when people world over did yoga. And I think yoga is also another very, very good way to keep good mental health.
Thank you. And Fabrizio, what do you think about these ideas of Sri Sri?
I think it's a wonderful idea. And I must say, I felt that the reality Sri Sri was describing for Mumbai and southern India, even here in New York, usually you never hear birdsong in spring because the sound is hidden by the cars and the number of people. Walking the empty streets here for the first time in many years, I've heard birdsong in the heart of New York. So yes, this we have given another chance for our planet. But I think also, as Sri Sri indicated, we have to take this opportunity to, there will be a building back effort, a coming back to normal effort as we emerge from this crisis. But it's not good enough to go back to where we were before. If we don't do better, and if we don't learn from this crisis and maximize the positive things that came out of this crisis, we will have failed terribly. So the Secretary General has called that we not only build back, but we build back better. And in that sense, I think the two most important ingredients that the Secretary General has emphasized, one is to think much more about the environment. We've been reminded through this crisis how our activities marginalize and harm the environment, and just how valuable the environment is to us when given a chance. But we need to do that maybe through this week of calm, but we need to do it in all our efforts, 365 days a year. And we hope that when the building back effort starts, it will be much more environmentally aware, much more sensitive to the environment. Sri Sri alluded to the situation also of the daily paid laborers in India. And of course, and that's the same here in the heart of New York, which has probably more of the world's richest people than any other city in the world. The worst affected are the minority groups, the worst affected are the poor. And in that, there's no difference anywhere in the world. And so also in building back, we have to be mindful of the environment, but also mindful to focus most on those who need support most, focus most on the poorest. And that's the second thing the Secretary General has emphasized. There's a very real danger that inequality, which has grown in 2 out of 3 countries over the past 20 years, will get worse with this crisis. So we need to make sure, again, that we come out saner and better of this crisis and focus on building back with inclusion, building back focused on those who suffer most and who are often forgotten or left behind.
Well, and of course, we all need means to reduce our level of anxiety, our fear, because that brings out the worst in us, as opposed to when we get these tools. The breath, how can it be that simple? I mean, it sounds unreal that it is so powerful to learn to use your breath. And I know that even research taking place that you can affect cancer diseases in epigenetic terms on the cellular level, but with breathing, it's extremely powerful. And of course, one of the most delicate and problematic areas in the pandemic as well. So we have seen many positive results in aggression and depression, we learn, on community level. And we see many outbreaks of domestic violence and problems, of course, now. But youth, the young people, so much need to get these programs where they get the hope and future, and where they can really get the tools and the independence. I can handle my own well-being. So is there any way that you can promote this again from the UN, so that people feel that they're in this 75th anniversary, which is also a very interesting timing, that now the opportunity is there to serve something positive and concrete? Do you think that's realistic to expect that the UN can step forward here and take some action?
I think, you know, what the UN can do is, to a large part, determined not only by the activism of the Secretary General, and he's been very active on these mental health issues, but also by member states. So I think we also have to construct this from the bottom up, from participants in this webinar, who have to call for this. And if the call comes from member states, the UN will certainly take more action. And the example Sri gave of India introducing the International Day of Yoga, which is celebrated in a very big way here in UN headquarters, is one example of that. And we've worked together in the past when I was in Colombia, and we were trying to promote peace after 60 years of conflict, the longest lasting internal conflict anywhere in the world. And the whole idea of peace was very politicized, with the peace agenda being seen as belonging to a certain direction, and those who oppose peace were on another political direction. And with Sri, we worked on a joint campaign which was entitled Respira Paz, Breathe Peace, Breathe Peace. And the point was to try and make the point to people that beyond the politicization of peace, peace in essence is a human condition that allows us to thrive. And in that sense, breath is what allows us to thrive. Breath is the precondition for human life, and breath is what defines life. When we cease to breathe, we cease to live. And so breath and peace are intimately connected. No life, no family, no community, no country can thrive adequately without peace, in the same way that we as human beings cannot thrive without our breath. And our breath, if done appropriately through meditation techniques, through yoga techniques, also brings us peace. So the two are intimately connected. And I think at a time like this, where it's so easy, and we see this at an individual level, we see it at a community level, and we see it at a global level, to get lost in our imagined and real fears amidst all the uncertainty, and really to get stuck in our anxieties, to go back to our breathing, to go back to our bodies and what keeps them alive is tremendously important, as we did at the beginning through this meditation exercise led by Sri. Is tremendously important to come back to our senses and to be able to move forward in a saner way. And we're seeing that manifestation of aggression that Sri was talking about. We see that in the inability of the UN Security Council to agree on a resolution around COVID backing the Secretary General's call for a global ceasefire. We see that aggression in an increase in domestic violence against women and girls in the lockdown condition. We see that aggression in an increase in child abuse online, often in these conditions. So we need to become much more aware of those dangers, and we need to take much more energetic levels at much more energetic measures at every level to come back to a saner, healthier way of living.
I know for some 25 years ago when I produced a TV program where Sri was along with the Dalai Lama and Deepak Chopra. And I asked him, is there any breathing exercise that can help if you have anger within, to release some of it without hurting anyone? And he said, you can in an angry way and go there back at home where you're there, you feel locked and you can release a little bit of the anger. And many people have used that, I know, instead of exploding. But I also know that you, of course, are very keen on the global level, Fabrizio, where multilateralism is called for more than ever. Is there anything that you can stress or help us see how you think it's possible to find this, apart from the survey that I, again, encourage everybody to fill in? Is there anything more we need to understand the common denominators are so much more than all the difficulties we focus on? What can we do to promote multilateralism?
We are in a crisis. The Secretary General, like Sri, has said this might be the worst global crisis since the Second World War. Crisis in Greek comes from the word for a turning point. I think the Chinese character for crisis, Weiji, means both danger and opportunity. So this crisis also implies a fork in the road. And it's really not clear what path we will take. We can see that we could come out of this crisis as an international community much more divided, with countries turning to more aggressive policies, more nationalistic policies, with greater fragmentation between states, greater isolationism, alliances, ad hoc alliances between like-minded states, but with a hostile posture towards other states. There are signs of that happening already. But another approach could be that the world will come together and recognize that the planet now is so interconnected and so interdependent that you cannot care about your own community, you cannot care about your own country, unless you also do your part for the global common good. And it's a question of enlightened self-interest. It's not a question of altruism. Unless every government takes care of the planet, they are putting in jeopardy their own populations. And we see that with climate change, that no government on its own, however powerful, can solve. We see that with this pandemic, that no government, however powerful, on its own. So we could come out with greater unity in the same way that after the Second World War, the world came out more united than ever. And it's thanks to that, Annika, Sri, myself, if we grew up in peace and prosperity, let's be honest, it wasn't so much from our own efforts. It was thanks to the foresight of those who came before us. It was thanks to the foresight of those who put the mechanisms in place that allowed our planet to thrive. But it's really a question now if the same vision for planetary health, for good cooperation is still there. And I think today, the levers of power are also not in the same places as they were 75 years ago. I think today, change is not going to come, as you suggested, between the meetings of the great powers in Malta or here in the US. Change is going to come from the bottom up. And if we think the big changes that have happened in recent years, like the Fridays for climate movement or the Me Too movement, they've been grassroots movement from the bottom up. And I think that's to save multilateralism. Multilateralism has to grow more inclusive. It has to integrate better youth voices. But above all, to save multilateralism, young people and old have to come together everywhere and make their desires better known. And that we're trying to create the platform for that we will then bring to leaders and try and use that grassroots movement to make sure that we take the better fork in the road and use this crisis really to come to our senses and take the planet in a better direction that will better secure the sort of future everybody wants for the young people of today, but also for those who come after us, in the same way that our forefathers did for us. But it's not so clear how this generation will go down in history of world leaders.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful conclusion. And I do hope you have been empowered personally to continue your work. And finally, Sri, I know you work a lot with human values as a means also to inspire from within. What is it that you would like to leave us with as a final say from your part right now?
Let me see, Mr. Fabrizio has very clearly put the picture what is needed to be done. I would add in that like we have taught our planet dental hygiene. People all over the world, they use brush, they use paste, and they keep their hygiene. Like dental hygiene, we have to teach mental hygiene. So this is important, that look at your own mind. What are you carrying? Are you carrying the past, all the garbage, anger, frustration, jealousy, and projecting it on people around you? Are you in victim consciousness or in culprit consciousness? Are you reeling in guilt, or are you reeling in a sort of one-upmanship above others? What is most important for you? Is it friendship, love, peace, a cooperation, or showing off that you are better than others? So these are some questions when our young people start asking themselves, a lot gets cleared in their path of communication. I often say three things are very important. That is communication, communication, and communication. Communication with yourself. Communication with yourself. If you don't communicate with yourself, be honest to yourself, true to yourself, you will not have inner peace. When you have no inner peace, you will only spread what is inside of you to others. So, whether men or women, today we live in a unisex society where, you cannot say women are this way, men are this way. You can find all type of nature and tendencies in everybody. So, there are very strong women and there are very weak men also. So, we cannot say that word which was used in the previous century, weaker section. Women are no longer weaker section. They are well empowered, and I would like them to take more lead, because women are more sensitive, and in their sensitivity they can care for families and society, and not just food, clothing, education, but the mindset of our kids also, we have to keep an eye on it. So I think this will be a very big change, the way people will start looking at their life, and it has to happen. I hope to see a very different world in coming years with less violence. Already see violence have come down. Accidents and crime has come down in the world because of COVID lockdown. But if people really practice that, being non-violent in their dealings and communicate with people and family with more friendliness, compassion, and inclusiveness, we can hope to see a more prosperous and peaceful society.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody listening, and good luck in integrating this, strengthening your resilience, both as individuals, community level, global level. Now is the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annika. Bye. Bye.
Bye.